Today, I was thinking about, I always feel like I get lots of questions, thoughts, or notes about successful play dates and not successful play dates. So I was thinking today, I would kind of just talk about what to think about before a play date, what to think about during a play date, and if it's not going well, how you kind of can intervene to move it in a direction of going well. But kind of like big picture to small picture, I always think sometimes we as parents underestimate how much effort we have to put into a play date, even with neurotypical kids, but also especially with neurodivergent kids, that play dates are not easy, and play dates are not just a time for parents to kind of take a break and relax and hang out with our mom friends. It's really a time that is, we have to think about intentionally of what we're doing to orchestrate, structure, facilitate, and keep a play date positive for our kids. So my thought is I'd go through kind of some different things I would think through, and then obviously open it up to questions to hear what you guys are thinking about. But first thing that I always think is really important is the setting of the play date. And obviously, we think of a play date, we think of doing it at a house, which is great, but we have to think about everyone's safe space and what's going to help them feel that felt safety of where they are and what they're doing. So if we think about in a school year, it takes us like a month for kids to get comfortable in the space of the school to be able to engage and for us to be able to put demands on them. When we're going to a play date and I invite one of your kids over to my house is brand new and they have to get comfortable in my house before I could then be like, oh, wait, you have to play with my kid too. So I think one of the biggest things that you have to think about first is where is the setting and what are the expectations within that setting. So if the goal of if your intention of a play date is if two kids my child has never met your child, or our kids know each other, but you've never been to my house or my kid's never been to your house, then the first play date is just to get comfortable with my house. And your child is just going to come over and we're going to basically do a tour of my house. Like think of it as you set it up kind of like school where we had a meet and greet where parents come and you just be in the setting with the child. You don't place the demands on your child to play with my child. We're just going to let your child explore my house and what I have for toys that may be same or different from what your house looks like. And in that setting, sure, there can be things out that play date, there can be things out to play with. But my expectation is that our kids are not going to be playing together, that your child's going to explore with toys. My child already knows those toys, so is going to explore with them. But I'm setting up my child because it is their safe space that, remember, Henry has never come over to our house before. So our job is to be a great hostess and let them see our house. And then we'll have a snack together. And then they're going to go home because we can't add, if we think of like the last talk that I did about like safe circles, you have to be in the safe circle to be able to place demands. So if my house is not in your child's safe circle, which of course it would not be if they have never been to my house, I want to allow them to feel safe, to open that window of tolerance, to be able to be in my house, to then be able to, for me to be able to place demands on them. So the first play date is just a short, simple, sweet, come visit my house, come see what my child, Julia, has at her house. And then we're going to have a snack. And then we can think about what we're going to do in the next play date. Because then you've allowed my child, Julia, and your child, Henry, to be on the same playing field of, oh, now I know your house. Now I can start to think about what we could play together. So that's one piece of the setting, is thinking about where, who is, what, if that setting is within your child's safe space or not, or if the intention is for just the children to connect, then you go to a mutually neutral safe space of like a trampoline park that they both know well, or like a Drummond Farm or a playground that they both know decently equally well. So then that becomes the background and the child becomes the foreground. You have to have, the setting has to be safe and known for that to become not a distraction for the child and become the background, and the play to become the foreground. So you have to think through that if my child wants a play date, just inviting you over to my house is not going to create a positive play date for your child because they don't know that setting. So let's say they're both in the safe space, and now Henry's come over one time, visited my house. Maybe I've sent pictures of like my basement or whatever. So now it's going to be a play date where the intention is that the goal is the intention for them to connect. I'm still just talking about setting. And now we're going to figure out where they're going to play that's going to be a space that feels successful to both of them. So naturally, that would be not a bedroom, because that's a really, really safe space for my child, Julia, not a really, really space safe for Henry. So a generally neutral area like a basement or like a living room that you bring toys into, that's not totally overwhelming for toys, because sometimes in a basement, Henry's coming over and sees all my amazing trains that he doesn't have. So now he's focused on that rather than thinking about Julia, who is the goal of the play date. So you go into the basement and maybe Julia gets to pick two things and Henry gets to pick two things. But then we're going to go to a neutral space that's less distractible and decide, okay, we're going to play with this and that. And that I'll get to in the schedules part. But in a home, after it becomes a safe space, which is a very important number one, then you want to go to having the play date in a space that feels successful to both children and allows the child to be at the foreground and the space to be at the background. So highly distractible spaces are going to be really tricky, because a new child in that setting is going to be looking at all the things. Hence why when like I've done intakes with most of your kids, I'm always going to a beanbag room, because it would be impossible for me to go into a classroom and connect with your child, attune to your child, and have your child want to play with me when there's 1,000 things happening around the room. And my goal is to want to make that connection with them. So you have to make the setting itself very much a distraction-free zone so that they can make that connection with the peer that you've invited over to that place. So that's a little bit about the setting. I'm sure there's other pieces that will come up in that. But then thinking about kind of how you set up the play date, and that to me is important, of who you're going to have the play date with. Because if we think about invisible demands, first of all, these aren't even that invisible, but a play date in itself is a demand. Especially even higher level play date is a play date at your house, because you have these toys and you know how you like to play with these toys. But now this peer comes over, and let's say Julia really likes to play with these toys, lining them up and driving cars down them. But Henry comes over and he wants to make a castle with the magnetiles. Now I have two different expectations of the same toy, but when it's at my house, that's going to be a higher demand on Julia, because she expects her magnetiles to go that way. So demands are big, and I think it's important to think about, when I talk about schedule, it'll be important to think about the schedule of it, but demands of who the child is coming, what demand would be about the child coming over for the play date, and the invisible demands of what is expected in your house, and or if you go out in the world, to think about what are the invisible demands of that setting, of it being loud. If like when you're thinking about who the play partner is and what you're going to do, That's a really important factor. So if you know your child really connects with Henry because they're both really movers, like movers and shakers, that is a great play date because they're both love movement. So then what are you going to do for an activity? You're going to choose a lot of movement stuff because that is what those two like to do. If you're choosing a play date because they both love building, then that's great because that is an equal connection, and then they're both going to build together. So what's important is thinking about what they do have connected with each other, because that's going to lean your play date in a positive direction. What is harder is, let's say I love Jonathan's mom, so I want to have a play date, but Julia and Jonathan are not totally connected on their interests. I guess what? I'm not going to be hanging out with Jonathan's mom because I'm going to have to facilitate that play date more, because let's say Julie is a mover and Jonathan is a builder. Now I've got to create something that's going to bring my mover to a building level with that child, which is not a natural connection. That's two parallel worlds. So when you're thinking about a play date, you want to think about who is going to yield a nice connection. If you have two movers, then going to the trampoline park is amazing. If you have two builders, then going to the science museum is great because then they'll stay in the same section together. If you're going to your house, then you think about, you could even email the mom ahead of time and be like, hey, what are some interests of your child? So I can make sure I have those things and I can build them into interests that my child has. So just because a child talks about a child at school doesn't mean that is a great play date, because talking about a child at school means our teachers are working it to get them connected. There is never a time in any of the classes where kids are just free flow playing. There is morning play, but those are very structured morning plays. It's not just a go in a room and find toys and figure out what to play with them. So if my child and Jonathan are connecting at school, it's awesome, but that's going to yield a very high demand play date on a parent part to make them connected at home, or they're going to move in parallel worlds and it's not going to be a successful play date, which actually, if you think about it, might carry over to school in a way that is negative and kind of messes up their connection at school. So one thing is always asking a teacher, hey, who does my Julia? Who would be a fun person for Julia to play with at home? Who has a natural interest that is similar to Julia's? That's going to be a better play date than just someone you're yearning to have connected. Because if you're yearning for that connection, that is great, but you're going to have to work harder at that play date than if it's someone that leans in the same direction of they both love pretend play house. Great. Then they can play family because I have a house at home or something like that. So thinking of profile and interest of a child, also important. And you can always ask the teacher and you can always ask the parent as well. I think any fewest parent is always going to be pretty open and honest about their kids. And if it's a neighborhood kid, then the first time that you're having a play date with that child, you're going to be very present to figure out where they connect and where they don't connect so that you can make it more positive and set it up in a better way for the next play date. What is also very important, once you figure out the setting and you kind of mesh with profile of kids, then figuring out how you're going to, what the schedule and the structure of the play date are, which is the most crucial part. Free flow play dates, not going to be incredibly successful unless this is like you've had many play dates and you know your kids free flow with trains or something like that. Like that has to be a known entity that, oh, I know my kids do really well with magna tiles. First 4 or 5 play dates until you really know the kids can connect and work through challenges, you are going to have to be present and facilitating that play date. Maybe you can back off from it, but you're right back in there to help scaffold a moment or bridge a moment or structure the next activity. When we think about schedule, first of all, in the beginning, like first play date, maybe 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. Also, biggest, like, even from a mom factor, never let a play date go because it's going well, because then it'll end poorly. And then they haven't lost that what they have lost is that positive episodic memory. And they end with a negative episodic memory of it lasted too long. They were losing their stamina, and then someone grabbed a toy, and then someone pushed whatever. It's always going to end negative if you let it go on too long. You guys know your kids well. And I would say threes and fours, maybe an hour, 5, 6, maybe hour and a half, 2 hours, but that feels like you're certainly going to be taking breaks during it. So in terms of a structure, one, you want to have just like we do at school, actually, you want to have proactive breaks to let them like decompress, because it's a lot to have a play date and to be connected and engaged. You want to have breaks in between where they get to kind of just share space and have low demands and do things like a snack or a popsicle or something. So they're getting breaks between these high engagement times. And if it's until you know your kids are going to do well together, you really start with a low demand play date and a low expectation. So if you're going to have magnetiles, you have enough for both sets of kids. And you start, if this is your second play date, you start with like, hey, Julie, here's your magnetiles. Hey, Henry, here's your magnetiles. And you guys can trade them, but I know you each have your own. So they're not trying to hoard material, because that is really hard for a child who owns the house, because all those magnetiles are theirs. And maybe you set it up ahead of time. Like I would set it up with Julia and say, hey, I know Henry's coming over. It's so hard to share your magnetiles, especially the magnetic cranes. So let's make sure we have enough for Henry and for you. And if there's only one, we should probably just save those and save those for when just you are playing with them. So you divide them out with, I should divide them out with Julia before the play date starts, so that we know they're pretty equal. And you do that for literally everything, of like, even if you're painting, there's enough paint brushes, materials for everyone. Because what happens is a child who is new, Henry, who is new to my house, is going to feel anxious that, oh no, these are all Julia's, so I need to hoard mine. Then Julia feels anxious. Wait, these are mine. I need them. So if you set it up ahead of time that you split the materials, it works much easier for them to both feel safe and not anxious about what the materials they're going to get are. And within a schedule, I would always go from a sitting to a moving to a sitting to a moving. If you do too much sitting because it's going well, like that, like even in a morning playtime, if they're playing with trains and they're sitting, and oh my gosh, it's going great. 9 times out of 10, all of a sudden you then want to move to something else, but they've been sitting so long. So now their bodies get dysregulated very quickly. So what you want to do is work on that regulation, like in and amongst what you're doing with sitting. So you move from a movement type activity, and that could be like, hey guys, let's set up an obstacle course. Or if you have a basement, you set it up ahead of time that they can go down there, and then there's like bean bags and tunnels or something for them to go in and amongst. Or maybe it's going to ever stop being snow outside. The beauty of being able to go outside might be back. And then you can really play outside and let them move around outside. Within that schedule time where you're vacillating between a building or a sitting, coloring, and then a moving, what you want to really come up with is downtime, so they get almost like air to breathe and kind of allow themselves to calibrate again, of like, hey guys, let's go have a snack. Or I'm going to read you a book, so they can just relax a little bit within the play date of those different movement times. And even here's what I would also say: if like you're scheduling it, it's going well, you feel comfortable enough to leave the room, and you know the child and your child well enough that they're going to be able to navigate this, what I would always recommend is having like a baby monitor, so that when you are in the other room talking to the other parent or making their snack or whatever, you can hear what's happening. So when it starts to like tiny bit escalate into like, no, that's mine. No, that's mine. You are right in there like, hey guys, guess what? Snack's ready. Oh, I guess we can leave this and we'll go have snack and then we'll come back to it. Or you can go in and help like, oh, I heard you guys are both wanting the this. Let's figure out how we can do this. Oh, wait, I see another one right here. So you're either going in and bridging that moment, or you're going in and switching it all together and being like, oh my gosh, I just finished making you snack. Let's go have snack. And then you come back to it and see how you can bridge it. But sometimes if it's already up here at like a 5, easier to move and do something else and then come back to it. Um, and then you always want to end positively. So I'll go into like if you need to end it early when it goes we talk about when it goes wrong, what happens. But at the end, never make it an abrupt ending. And always like you could write up for younger kids, especially 3, 4s. I would write out a schedule of okay, first we're gonna play Don't Break the Ice, which is a sitting activity. Then we're gonna jump and crash on bean bags or do our trampoline. Then we're going to play magnet tiles, or then we're going to have a snack. Then we're going to play magnet tiles, and then we're going to go outside. And then it's going to be goodbye time. So you're giving them, just like we would do with each of those transitions, I would give them a warning of when you're going to do them. Another thing about this schedule is don't let them go on too long, because then something's not great is not going to happen. So I would make every little activity just like we do at school, like maybe 15 minutes. You can always end it earlier if it sounds like it's not going well. But shorter, better is always going to end with better, positive episodic memories, which allows next time, then Henry's really excited to come to Julia's house because he had a good memory the first time. So you always want to have a positive ending. And then, if they did a coloring sheet, like, oh my gosh, Henry, you get to take this home. So that then he's like, oh, yay, I got something for being like, he gets to take something home. It's a positive memory of him and Julia playing together. Or maybe you took a picture of them. Oh, I'm going to send this to your mom so she can show it to you at home or whatever. Then comes the what if things aren't going well, or what if it's like, let's say you're at a trampoline park and the 2 kids are just not connecting at all. I would never, especially if it's a fuse kid, you're never putting the onus on the child, because that is what they're here for. And that is what we are here facilitating. So if I see Julia's jumping over here and Henry's jumping over here, what am I doing? I'm not going to Julia and being like, you need to go play with your friend. Well, yeah, she was super excited about going on that play date. So if she knew how to play with Henry, she would go over to him. Or a lot of times they're just like jumping near each other, which can be fine. But if I want them to do something more connected, I'm jumping in and I'm creating that connection. So if it's at my house and they're both playing in opposite rooms of the living room with different toys, I'm coming in and creating a shared joy moment of, okay, guys, I'm going to take all the animals, all the stuffed animals, and I'm going to hide them around the house. And then you guys are going to go look for them. So I'm going to switch the plan to something that I know they can do together. And I don't care if they go find them together, but they're both sharing that moment. And then next, I'm going to be like, Julia, why don't you go and you hide them? And Henry, you be the finder. So then I've created a fun activity that could then go on and on and on, because it's taking away whatever was making it hard for them to connect. So in those moments, this is why I say like play dates until kids are like, I don't know, 8, 9, never going to be your most relaxing time, but they can be very positive and yield really nice connections for kids, because it's not in the overwhelming school environment. But you're going to have to work at it, and it may go well, and it may be a yo-yo effect of it's going well. Oh, wait, it's not going well. I need to jump back in. So one thing is, if it's not going well, you're going to intervene and create something to go well. If you're starting to hear your kids having a conflict of Julia and Henry are arguing about something, or let's say Julia hit Henry, I'm jumping in, and whoever, if you're having a play date at your house, then I believe it is the assumption that I'm going to parent the other child in the way that I feel appropriate. And hopefully, if you're having a play date with another person, you kind of go over ground rules of, hey, I know sometimes my child can get frustrated and be physical. Here's how I would do this. Or if that happens, I'm going to jump in, because if Julia's at Henry's house, I'm going to go over anyways. And if she starts to get frustrated, I'm going to jump in because I want to be consistent with what we do at home. So if Henry's at Julia's house and Julia starts to hit, then I'm going to go in and I'm going to, at that moment, say to Julia, that's where I intervene. And first I set a expectation so Henry knows that hitting doesn't happen in our house. So what I would then say is, oh, Julia, I can't let you hit our friend Henry. I'm going to give you some space. And then Julia goes over to wherever her cozy corner is, or Julia, I'm going to let you play with these fidgets. I'm going to go play with Henry right now. Because what I also don't want Henry to do is think, oh no, what happened? I'm not playing. So I'm going to play with Henry and play out whatever we were playing. And then I'm going to, in 2 more minutes, go over. Or if I really need to calm down, Julia, I'm going to have Henry's mom play with him so he doesn't feel left out. I'm going to help Julia calm down, help her understand what happened. And then Julia and I can come back over and join the play. And I'm going to be with them for a little while to make sure it comes back connected and make sure that they are back in a positive place before I step out of that play. And maybe for the rest of the play date, I stay in it because now Henry's anxious and Julia's feeling shameful that she hit Henry. So I'm going to stay in it and make it fun. And that's when, going back to what I said in the beginning, sometimes play dates need to end early, and that's not a fail. That's a we end before things derail. So if Julia had the moment, what I want to do is create a positive and then be all done. So I'm going to bring Julia back over and I'm going to be like, Henry, Julia was so frustrated and she didn't use her message. I'm so sorry. Let's play again, whatever the thing was, or maybe we pick out something else if that was too tantalizing. And then I hope that be successful. And I may be right in the middle of it to be successful. And then about halfway through that game, I'm going to say, oh, guys, after this game, then we're going to go upstairs, have a little bit more of our snack, and then we're going to be all done because this has been fun and I like this game and we can play this game next time. So try, if possible, to come back together, have a positive interaction, and then end it. But there is also the case where Julia did something to Henry and Henry is quite upset. And it could just be that at that moment, I say, you know what, Henry, Julia is having a tricky moment. She has to calm down. I think we need to finish our play date another day. And then that's the unspoken rule of moms that, like, you know what, abort. It's going to be better later. Then Julia draws a picture for Henry. I send it in a message to Henry's mom so that Julia's mending that before school starts the next day. So kind of for me, the intervention hopefully comes quick. The intervention can come from, like, if you're listening on the baby monitor early so that you're preempting something bigger happening. And once there is an intervention, then I'm always keen to stay in the play date to make sure it goes positive for the rest of the play date. Another big thing is how many people are at a play date. And this is like amazing. It sounds amazing to have 4 moms over for us all to connect. But guess what? Have a mom's night out, because it really doesn't go amazing. And the more kids you have, the harder it is. I would say, in general, just as we know, if I'm out with 2 other people, the hardest is a 3-person, because someone is always going to be left out. Think back to high school. Whoever wants to have a 3-person sleepover, because someone's left out, someone gets upset about something, and then the other 2 run off and play. 3 is a horrible number. I would go for 1. If a setting is not safe, always start with 1. If a setting is safe and kids are safe, then you could go to just 1 other person or two other people. So then it's a 4-person play date so that you're triangulating and everyone has a somebody to play with. Because what happens with a 3-person play date is a mom always has to get in there because 2 people have an idea to make a castle. This person wants to make a swimming pool. We're not all gonna, it's hard to get 3 people to be agreeable to do the same thing. So now I'm building a swimming pool while these 2 are making a castle. So 3 is hard unless you're at somewhere like a jumping place and a neutral space so that you don't have the demands of a house and everyone's just kind of sharing space at like a zoo, at a trampoline park, at an indoor play space. You're kind of sharing space. So then you could do 3, but still tricky because the 2 might move on and leave the 1. So just assume you're kind of getting into it. With 4, then you have 2 and 2, and those 4 might switch it up, but it's way better to switch it up than have someone left out of that play date. I think that was all. I wanted to talk about structure, setting, profile of kids, schedule. Sometimes with younger kids, I always make a visual schedule. With older kids, you still could make a visual schedule, especially for a kid who's anxious. Giving a first then, if it's the first time in my house, I might say first we're going to look at the basement, then we're going to look outside, then we're going to have a snack, then we're all done. You could break up the play date a little bit more and do a first puzzle, then outside, something like that, just to show them like what's happening first and what's happening next. Any of those are going to make the child feel more successful. If we think back to last week when I was doing the window of tolerance, think of if I'm having Henry at my house, his window of tolerance is going to be very minimal. So my job as the hostess is to increase his window of tolerance. And Henry's mom's job is to help him feel as safe as possible. So if he needs to bring a stuffy over, if he wants to bring a game, amazing, because now he's bringing a little bit of his world into Julia's world. And now she has a game, he has a game, amazing. So we both have things that we can share with each other. Just make sure it's not a high priority game or like a one train that's not going to work out well. It has to be something that can be mutually shared, not just a show and tell type thing. So I guess I'll turn it over to questions you guys have now or scenarios that you want to not like specific scenarios, but things you want to talk through of what is successful and what's not in different play dates you've had.
I can ask one question, unless, of course, anyone else has anything else.
And then you can always start it off.
What about a play date with multiple kids or what do you like? So the multiples, like having more than one kid over, and it's a safe space of varying degrees for the different kids. Like one kid is coming over who's been there before, and does that mean that anyone else who comes should have been there before too?
Yes. So then it's not fair to the one kid. Let's say my Julia has not been there, but Henry has come over multiple times.
Yeah.
My kid's going to be on the outs. So what I'm going to do if I'm a proactive mom is if it's Tuesday and you're setting up a play date for Saturday, if I would advocate for all of you guys to do this for your own kids. If my Julia has never been to your house, but wow, does this multiple kid play date sound great? For Julia, I'm going to advocate, hey, can we just like stop by after school one day so we can see your space? Or you, as the proactive mom that now knows, is going to be like, hey, I know Julia has never been to my house. So do you guys want to stop by and just come have snack with us after school? So it puts everyone on an even playing field in that way. Like, I know you guys have a dog, not my Julia, but my Nora, crazy fearful of dogs. I don't even care what size your dog is. She would be scared of a dog. So I always used to say, 1, do you have a dog? 2, if you want my Nora to not be frozen in the corner, are you comfortable putting your dog away? And if you're not, then I got to come over like 2 or 3 times before Nora's going to even like hear what what Cooper's saying before she feels comfortable in your house. So like, I know that about Nora, but if you have a dog and you can put him away, great. If that's going to tick off Cooper because he loves the dog and that's like his safe thing, then you should say, you know what, I can put him away, but now I have to think about Cooper. So why don't you guys come over a couple times before the mutual play date?
Perfect. That is super
So
helpful.
it's work. I am not like it's not a not work, but I think play dates are so great if they're leveled well and understood what's expected of them. I guess to the other thing now that we're thinking about Cooper, then there's the sibling situation, right? So like Cooper has a friend over, Layla's going to want to get in there. If you have let's see, so there's like multiple factors of it. If you have my Julia over and my Nora is around Layla's age, great. But what we're going to do is one of us is going to be on the Layla Nora and one of us is going to be on the Cooper Julia. Like Layla and Nora might be so easy, but if there's an issue and you, Cooper and Layla's mom, are trying to do both, not fair to you while I sit back. So you can be like, oh, of course you can bring Nora, but maybe you can kind of handle Nora and Layla and I'll be on Cooper and Julia or something like that. So that because if a one sibling joins, let's say Layla joins with Cooper and Julia comes by herself, that's hard. That I would not do.
Yeah.
That I would not do Cooper and Layla and a one Julia, because unless they have all been together multiple times and we're like family friends, then it's a no brainer. But if it's a Julia first time, she's going to be intimidated because Layla and Cooper have a language of their own. But once Julia gets comfortable and you could have Layla join for like a one. I used to do this with my kids. The sibling would join for like one activity because they're dying to get in there. And you create an activity that's very simple for Layla, who's younger, to get in there. For, maybe my Julia is going to be like, I don't want a baby in there. So you can be like, oh my gosh, this activity is such a challenge for everyone, but yet it's something Layla's good at. Or like a cooking, like let's make the snack together. And then Layla's on a stool. So it like kind of contains her. Layla can join for like one activity and that gets Julia more aware of Layla. And then, so you think of the safe circles and like your house is now in the safe circle. Cooper, you are in the safe circle, but Layla's out here. So we broaden it a little bit and have Layla join one activity. So it's a tiny demand. So the next time, maybe the safe circle can include Layla in some way.
That makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. And that actually that is very helpful because she's little. There's this like connotation about little kids being like loud and annoying, and that is helpful. That is like it to have her be able to like integrate in a way that where she won't be loud and annoying.
Yes.
And like
so it has to be very purposeful.
Yeah.
She can't just go in and play in the foam pit because she's going to be so like my youngest. Wow. Was she a lot of work for me when my older ones had play dates because she wants to get in there. She is chomping at the bit. So then she gets in and she thinks being loud is the way she's going to gain attention, but not quite at all. So I'd have to like have her join in something she feels really like. I used to have her make the snacks and she would be the server. So that made her feel like super cool. And she would like pass out the juice boxes, whatever. And then she would sit with them. So she felt a little higher. So then she actually chilled out a little bit for the play dates. So you have to work any sibling entrance into there without them trying to like just yield this attention from being a squeaky wheel, essentially.
That is so helpful.
And sometimes you just hand off Layla to Brandon and Brendan, you do her because I've got this play date, and they go do something special. Like that was a lot of our time of like, you go do something special because it's just Cooper's not going to know which direction to go because he loves Layla, but he has a friend over. So it could be a divide and conquer.
Take Layla and Bo on a walk.
Or she gets to watch an amazing show for part of the time and then join for snack.
I love that. I love that. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Other questions?
I had a question.
Yes.
Yeah, this has been super helpful. Things I haven't ever even thought about. One thing that stood out to me was like getting the child like aware of the new setting if it's a new setting. And I never even thought about something like that. So like how do you know that's particularly important for your child? Like having
You
them get
assume
the
it is. I think you just assume that if Adi was coming to my house, I know that my setting is not going to be comfortable for him. So I'm going to expect, well, you as his mom are going to be like, hey, we've never been to your house. So we're just kind of, you just kind of expect less. And like maybe they're just going to share space together in that new setting. You always go with, you have to learn a space before you can be comfortable. So a first play date is always going to be, you can be like, oh, we're so excited to come play with Julia. We're just going to make it short and sweet this time because we've never been over. And next time we can do a long play date. Because some parents have very unrealistic, not the fuse knowledgeable parents, but other parents have very unrealistic expectations of like, oh my gosh, have Audie over, let him be here for 3 hours so I can get work done. Not so much. So like start slow and then maybe it can work up to the longer one, but you have to do some of that advocating.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Whenever we've had play dates, I realize they just get to choose whatever they want to do, and we have like a million toys now, I'm realizing. So like how do you, if they're already used to coming over and like doing
Well,
whatever
if
they
it's
want, how do you
working, is it
yeah,
working or does Audie get mad?
well, I notice a lot of times, especially when with his Fuse classmates, he oftentimes just does his own thing. And so I realized having that structured play where I'm involved and having them both say do the same thing seems like I didn't even think about that. But then how do you, because now I wonder, they're gonna be like, why are you trying to take our autonomy? Because they're used to kind
they're
of
not
doing
they're
things.
not so much because they're coming from Fuse where everything is highly structured. So you can say, um, whatever, let's say it's Jackson coming over, you can be like, oh, guys, okay, so Jackson, pick your two favorite things. And Adi, you pick your two favorite things. And this time, we're just make a schedule for them and like they will yield right to it because, and then it's going to allow them to play together. Like, oh, you chose Don't Break the Ice. So, okay, here's your hammer. Here's your hammer. You guys can take turns. And then they're going to go, they can do that. That will, all you have to do is set them up and then they can go at it. And when it's over, you can be like, oh, maybe you guys can play like 3 times and then be like, oh, then we're going to switch to Jackson's choice, which is cars or whatever. And then you just set up like, oh, maybe you're the track person and you're the car person. But even if they're just sharing space, but both at cars, that's great. But if you have all the toys out, Audie's going to go over here and Jackson's going to go over here. And then they're not really playing together. It's not terrible. But if you just have a one thing out, they're going to yield to that space.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super helpful. I do disagree though. If Avi went first, he would have chosen the core activity. He would it wouldn't have got to Jackson's turn to play
Wait,
with
if
the
he
cars.
chose first, he would have what?
Definitely chosen the car.
Well, yes.
I'm
But he
just
does like
joking.
Don't Break the Ice. I feel like every single early morning drop off, he plays Don't Break the Ice with me. So
Oh,
it's
really?
probably, yes,
Oh, I don't
literally.
know what that is. I'm gonna look it up. Don't
Oh,
break
yeah.
the
Well,
ice.
you should because he really loves it. But it's funny because I always let him choose and he literally always plays. So maybe I disagree with your disagreement that I actually think he would choose for Don't Break the Ice.
Well, I was
But look it
actually
up. He
just
actually does
joking.
love it.
I
Yes,
was
I know.
actually
I know.
just joking, but the joke
The
led
joke
to
gave you a
something
new
new.
game to buy.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a very easy turn taking. They hammer these little squares of white thing and then the ice breaks. And I don't know, kids love it. And it's super
Wow.
easy.
Awesome. Thank you.
So glad you made the joke. Now you have a new game. But he would like cars too, of course. Other questions?
I have
Yeah.
like just a further question kind of about what to do if you've already messed up and missed the signs that you should end things.
Yeah, that's
Um,
okay. It happens every time.
right. And a conflict happens.
Yes.
And if that becomes like a really big conflict, then I feel kind of stuck of like, should we just get out of here right now, or should we try and wait till they can remember that they can get through this and like come back together in some way. Like I don't want to do the like you have to say sorry, like I don't want to
Correct.
force an apology, but I want Silas to know like this friendship can still be okay.
It's a
And
very fine line of where they are and how well, like, let's say it was Silas and my daughter. If we're both like, you take that room, I'll take this room. And if we give it like a solid, like 15 minutes of you're playing with Silas in there and I'm playing with Julia in here, and then we come back to a very neutral, highly loved snack,
mm,
then I think that's a positive way. We're not going to go back to playing because they're going to go
mm,
right back in it.
mm,
But if we text each other from the different rooms and I say, hey, I have whatever they both would like, does Silas like graham crackers or ice cream better? And then you're going to be like, definitely ice cream. So then we're going to come back. So then say, okay, let's meet in the kitchen in
mm,
5 minutes. And we've prepped them both that we're going to have an ice cream party before Silas leaves. And they come back together. And kind of what you decide at that moment is it's probably not worth processing unless they're both revved about it. You
mm,
kind of just go for the ice cream party. And maybe you talk about, like, oh my gosh, after they're in the ice cream and they're having a fine time, maybe they share sprinkles back and forth, like shake 'em, pass. And then you say, wow, guys, trains was really tricky, but I'm so glad we're having this ice cream party. This is so fun. I know. And you do all the talking, or whoever, like me or you do all the talking of like, I know sometimes friends have tricky times, but I know friends always can come back together. Like you kind of close the chapter of like, we had a tricky time, but look at us, we're having ice cream and we're going to have another play day and we're going to have so much fun. So you like close it. And then that was so fun, Julia. See you later. And then you talk about the positive things you did on the play date.
mm.
Does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
If you can get to it, like if you have the baby monitor or like a phone that you can hear it, if you can get to it before it absolutely escalates, then you can try to solve it at that moment of like,
Mhm.
okay, Silas, let's take a breath. Let's pause this and try to like intervene before it massively escalates. But if you can't, then you separate and come back together for something neutrally great.
Okay.
Building on that, what about like how do you do that transition? Like, so stuff is bubbling. Maybe Cooper and Silas are both want to use a train.
Hypothetically,
And yeah,
right?
totally. and and someone's mom suggests maybe we should do a switch plan. Lizzie, gold star. And and Cooper's like, no. And you're like, no, I just want the train. And
Yeah, no, it's not a choice. It's go you we are we need to take some space. Everybody at Fuse knows taking space.
Oh, okay. So we just take them. So when
We
there's
need to
like
take some space. This isn't feeling safe. This is not feeling fun. Trains are closed. We are taking space.
I love that. Okay. This isn't feeling fun.
Yeah, this is not feeling fun. And I want to make sure everyone's safe. So Coop, you know your house better. So Coop, let's go over here and leave Lizzie and Silas here. And
Okay. So
sometimes you might just have to help him, but it's not going to get any better if you're staying in the same space.
okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's sort of what we ended up doing that time, but I feel like it was initially we were in the same room, like separate sides trying to calm them down. And one of them would get calm and then the other would like say
Yeah.
another thing, right? Just like, oh
Because
no.
it's like a boxing match at that point.
Yeah.
They're just going to try to rile each other up because everyone wants the last word, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't like get in a fight with your husband and not have the last word unless you both leave and forget who had the last word, right? So, or that's just hypothetical from my world. But
Right.
you've got to take space and forget and then come back together.
Okay. Perfect. So it's not a choice. This isn't feeling safe. This isn't feeling fun. Need to make sure everyone's safe.
Yeah, because everyone has to have safety first.
Yeah.
So if let's say a car got thrown, oh wow, whoever it was, I can't let you hurt somebody. So Julia, this isn't feeling fun. So let's go take space. Silas and his mom are going to hang out here until, and we're all going to take a breath.
Okay. Just one other layer to that. Like, so like we brought Cooper upstairs. Cooper's like, is Silas playing with the train?
No, they're closed.
And
You
like,
close them
no.
before you
Oh, they're
ever
closed.
leave.
They're closed. They're
The
closed.
bin
They're
is
closed.
closed.
Okay.
You, whichever mom is separating the kids, the other mom
Yeah.
is, because of course that would happen.
Yeah.
That's why they
Yeah.
have to be physically, visually closed,
Yeah.
because anyone's going to get riled up if they think the other one got to win the toy.
Got it, because it is winning. Got it. So
Yes.
it's closed, remove it. And so then physically changing space, but no
Yes.
one is like staying with the toy. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
No one's having fun. We are taking breaks. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Ah,
Lauren, question about like who playdates are with. Obviously,
Mhm.
all of this applies in any circumstance, but
Yes.
kind of thinking through, you're setting up playdates with other neurodivergent kids, kids from Fuse. Everyone's kind of like working on similar-ish things. Everyone's kind
Yes.
of like safe space. Is that easier or harder, or is it easier or harder with like neurotypical kids? Like on the one hand, they're more regular, but then they're kind of different in what they might want to do from your kid. Any
It
thoughts
totally
on that?
depends on like their interest. Sometimes
Right.
it's easier, but like I would say, speaking for your son, if you have another like kid who loves to drum or whatever, that could be great, or it could be really tricky. So I would say it's knowing that other child, because maybe they're a little bit more regulated, maybe they're a little bit more flexible. So it's going to go well. And with a similar interest, and that
Similar
child
interest is probably the key, no matter
similar
what.
interest is very important. Similar interest and similar kind of body regulation of like, if you have a kid that like literally is not a mover, that's going to be hard because
We tried that. It did not go very well.
Does not go well, because they could happily sit at a table for a long time. Ethan tries so hard, but then at some point his body's just going to explode out of that chair. So it's really about, and I would say it's, I guess, less neurotypical, less neurodivergent, because I don't know, like lots of neighborhood kids, I used to be able to find problems with all of them too. So like,
yeah,
it's
they
not
have
about
other
that.
things they might be.
Yes, everyone's working on something. Correct. So you have to go with similar interests, similar profile, if you don't want to be involved in it.
So along the like, what then? I almost feel if someone's asking to do a play date and you know it's not a good match, should we just be like upfront and be like, this might not? I don't know if there's similar interests, because that, I'm now realizing we've had some play dates that haven't gone well. Actually, my younger son played better with the play date.
Yeah,
and
I mean, that happens.
You almost want to be extra selective.
Well, you want to be very extra selective if it's at your house, because then Ethan, just like I was saying, like to Maddie about Cooper, it then becomes a self-definition of the house. And oh my gosh, it was a fail at my house. So very selective if it's at your house. If you know it's not going to be a great match, neutral territory always works better. So then you're like, hey, great idea. Let's meet at a trampoline park. So because if they diverge, it's not as obvious and it's not a fail.
Yeah.
And then you bring your younger son, and then Ethan and the younger son kind of play together. And if you know it's not going to be great, then you go to a place where it's not going to be highlighted that it's not great.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Like Science Museum, where they're just like, houses are especially going to that person's house. Like, even if it's someone that's known, anyone else's house is going to be a high demand because it's not a comfort zone. And if you already know their profiles don't totally mesh, then you avoid that and say, hey, let's meet at Learning Express or whatever, something.
Okay, that's helpful.
But you also can say to a mom, well, it didn't work great last time. So what can we do if the mom really wants to make it work? What can we do to make it go better? And then you decide together. Like maybe you just go have a quick ice cream together to get them positive, and then the next one is an actual real play date. Any other last minute questions? I realize I know some of you have to leave to come get your kids, but any other last minute questions?
Just something that might be helpful is like a list I don't if like the teachers have it or like illicit activities.
Like go-to activities.
Like move and maybe it's even like we like moms like we can brainstorm and like just some running like resource of like moving, sitting, this just
Yes, here's what I will always say is always my go-to if I just get landed two kids upon me is, and I think I said this to you earlier, Maddie, is hiding animals. Always going to
oh
be
yeah, hiding animals.
scavenger hunts. You could have a puzzle, like a super simple Melissa and Doug puzzle that the kids can do. Hide the puzzle pieces, and they carry the puzzle together. And you like set like it could be sequential in numbers, and they have to find the number, and under the number is the puzzle piece. Any kind of scavenger hunt, they've all done scavenger hunts at Fuse of just going and finding different things around different places, because then that can set up, oh wait, I'm going to hide the pieces now, you're going to find them. Any kind of scavenger hunt, any kind of sensory bin of like sand with beads, anything that has cause and effect, going to be really successful. Anything that does not have massive fine motor, like tiny marble runs, fail because some kids aren't great at them. Anything with high like interest, like trains, and like hypothetically there's one that is electronic and only one, that's not like it's going to be too much of a desire for that one toy.
Yeah.
So there has to be equal of everything, and nothing that's going to tax one kid over the other. Like if I know Julia loves to climb, but I know the other kid is not as great fine gross motor wise, I'm never going to pick an activity that's going to tax them at a different place than Julia. So I might say to the parent, hey, we have this climbing structure outside. How does your child feel about climbing? So that then I know I can add it to the list or not. Outside, you can do scavenger hunts like crazy, or like a lot of the kids love the floor is lava. So you set up your living room with like things that don't touch the ground so they can play floor is lava.
Amazing. Thank you.
But if you just chat GBT, I don't even know if it's so funny. Teachers are so just incredibly minded. They just come up with these things that I wish it were written down. It would be great. We should write it down. But if you chat GBT sensory regulation home activities, I'll be curious and I will do it. I bet it'll give you great activities.
That's a great idea. And then I'll say like for play for XYZ. Okay.
Yes. Or like outdoor simple play for movement-based outdoor play that's simple.
Amazing. Thank you.
Okay.
I have one
Right.
quick question.
Yeah.
Let's say like a play date kind of goes bad. How soon should we try again?
Pretty
With
quick,
the right setting and the right supports and all that. How
Yeah,
soon
you do it pretty quick because you don't want that to be their memory. You want to redo it. So you come, maybe you meet in a different setting so that it's not the same, but it's the person that's important, not the setting, right? So you meet in a different setting and you redo it, and it's something they're both really excited about, and you just set it up better.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
This was very timely. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Great. Awesome. I feel like play dates are always timely. So I was like, what do I talk about? I've talked about demands. Oh yes. Everyone always talks about play dates. So great. And it's starting to be spring, so we may be able to be outside. So this is good.
Yes.
Do your play dates. All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.